Russia is currently rebuilding its army as much as possible, learning from its mistakes and trying to militarize society to wage aggressive wars. This was stated by the speaker of the 3rd OShB Alexander Borodin on the air of Radio Liberty. In particular, commenting on the possible freezing of the war, he said, "There is a dual component. It is connected with what we see at the front and what we see among the Russians. I understand that they know how to bluff well. The question here is whether the Russians are ready for this. An example from the work of our brigade, they are now building their army as much as possible. They are learning from their mistakes, which they did not do in the early periods of the war. They are developing the military-industrial complex. That is, everything that we see on the battlefield suggests that they are preparing and developing their army for a long war. Perhaps not only with Ukraine, perhaps in general, but they have such a situation. They have already moved away from the situation when they need to quickly resolve the war as a political bonus for themselves, so to speak. And this is a restructuring of the army and society for this," the military man said. According to him, even if the Russians sign a peace treaty, it is unlikely to correspond to real intentions. The impression is that they are trying, not necessarily with Ukraine, but in general, to militarize society and wage such aggressive wars. This impression is based on how they use the army and what has changed for them. I am not talking only about Ukraine. Perhaps they will put an end to this with us and will resolve some of their military tasks with other countries, Borodin believes. Recently, the Washington Post wrote that Donald Trump's rise to power in the United States and the dire situation for the Ukrainian armed forces at the front are pushing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski to soften his position in future negotiations with Russia. The publication noted that Zelensky has signaled greater readiness for talks in recent weeks to end the war, a major shift for the Ukrainian leader, who has long vowed to fight for every inch of his country's land. Zelensky's change in rhetoric, something that Ukrainian and Western officials have noted, can likely be explained by the worsening situation on the front lines and the arrival of a new US administration that has cast doubt on future security assistance to Kyiv, the article says. Zelensky had previously said that talks could begin only after Moscow withdrew all its troops from Ukrainian territory. However, in recent meetings with Trump and European leaders, the Ukrainian president has focused more on achieving a lasting peace for Ukraine. The top priority now is to secure an invitation to the NATO military alliance and other security guarantees, such as the possible presence of Western peacekeepers to deter future Russian attacks. The Russian military political leadership is likely preparing provocations in the Kremlin-controlled separatist region of Transnistria in Moldova. False flag operation aims to destabilize the country and undermine Chisinau's European integration efforts, the analysts from the American Institute for the Study of War, ISW, report. The experts' report indicates that Moscow is likely creating informational conditions for this operation in the unrecognized Transnistria. ISW analysts believe such actions are part of Russia's ongoing efforts to destabilize Moldova and obstruct its integration into the European Union. The experts analyzed statements from Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service on December the 23rd, alleging that Moldova's President Maya Sandu is preparing a military operation plan in Transnistria. The Russian side claimed that Moldova's military operation could lead to war. Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service also made unverified claims that during a meeting with Moldova's energy security leadership, Sandu allegedly urged the government to develop a plan to establish control over Transnistria and eliminate the Russian presence in the region. A Russian military-affiliated war correspondent spread these narratives, suggesting Sandu might plan an attack on Transnistria in response to Russia halting gas transit through Ukraine. A Russian blogger even identified the potential target of such a fake attack as the Kuchugan power station located in Transnistria. Meanwhile, Sandu's chief of staff, Adrian Bolutel, refuted the Russian intelligence claims, stating that Moldova is not preparing any military operations in Transnistria. Moldova's official called the Russian assertions serious and dangerous disinformation aimed at sowing panic and distrust. In addition, Moldova's Prime Minister Dorin Resian labeled the claims by Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service as part of the Kremlin's hybrid warfare. Official Chisinau reiterated that the Kremlin is attempting to destabilize Moldova. ISW analysts noted that the Kremlin has consistently used gas and energy blackmail to destabilize Moldova's internal affairs. Experts from the Institute for the Study of War believe that Russia might be using Ukraine's refusal to expand the gas transit agreement to spread panic and distrust among Moldova's society toward the pro-Western Sandu government. The Kremlin may also be setting information conditions for a false flag operation in Transnistria, however, the ISW analysts added. Recently, Moldova's President Maya Sandu suggested that a geopolitical opportunity might arise in the coming years to resolve the Transnistrian issue. Meanwhile, various provocations instigated by Russia frequently occur in the so-called Pridnestrovian Moldova's Republic, where Russia maintains its military occupation contingent. For example, Russian media and Moscow-controlled Transnistrian public channels previously reported alleged drone attacks in Transnistria. Moldova's authorities, commenting on these situations, noted that such provocations no longer cause panic. Earlier, at the end of November, official Chisinau expressed concerns about a potential humanitarian catastrophe in Transnistria in the event of a gas shortage. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who lost power as a result of the Syrian opposition offensive, is in Moscow. Several years ago, foreign media claimed that Assad's family owned housing in the Russian capital. According to RTVI, the press secretary of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, did not comment on the data on Assad's location, but noted that the issue of granting asylum cannot be decided without the head of state. He also noted that President Vladimir Putin does not plan to meet with Assad. Russian telegram channels claimed that Assad arrived in Moscow with his family in late November amid the advance of rebel groups in Syria and allegedly stayed at the Four Seasons Hotel. Assad later returned to his homeland while his family remained in the Russian capital, the VCHK OGPU channel wrote. The Financial Times and the anti-corruption NGO Global Witness claimed back in 2019 that Assad's maternal relatives had become the owners of 19 apartments in the Moscow City of Capitals and Federation over 6 years, worth a total of $40 million. According to the investigators, the property belongs to Assad's cousins Hafez Iyad Ihab Makhlouf, his sister Kinder Makhlouf, and Razan Otman, the wife of another cousin of the Syrian president, businessman Rami Makhlouf. As the FT reported, Hafez also has a 3-room apartment a few minutes' drive from Moscow City. Assad's staff, translators, drivers, and security guards also moved to Russia. The US State Department has estimated the Assad's family net worth at $1 to $2 billion, but it is difficult to calculate more precisely because the assets are dispersed and hidden in numerous accounts, real estate, portfolios, corporations, and offshore companies. According to the Wall Street Journal, the value of the assets of the family of former Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad may reach $12 billion. At the moment, an international hunt has begun for the funds of the family of the former president of Syria, but it will be very difficult to find and freeze them. As the Wall Street Journal wrote, Bashar al-Assad and his late father, Hafez al-Assad, used relatives to hide capital in other countries. There will be no cozy dinners in the Kremlin, but Bashar al-Assad may still be sipping champagne and eating caviar in his new life of luxury in exile, the Telegraph says. Alex Younger, the former head of Britain's MI6 intelligence agency, suggested that Assad and his family would instead face a dramatic deterioration in their living conditions compared to the luxury they had become accustomed to in Damascus. Younger explained that Russia had a far more important priority, which is Ukraine.